Hello, my amazing students, and welcome to chapter 13, our final chapter of the textbook. Hurrah! We survived the textbook, and here we are. Before we hop into chapter 13, which I think is a chapter we'll all really enjoy, I just wanted to say thank you to you all. As I was reading through some of your video comments for this week, I just really have appreciated about all of you just a willingness to be open with your stories and to be vulnerable and to share about your struggles, but also, the highs and the lows. I've just really appreciated everyone just being so open. I feel like that kind of gives other people permission to be open. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that. It has been really touching. There have been a couple of discussion board topics and a couple of video topics where I have just been really moved by your willingness to, just be authentic. So thank you for that. Chapter 13, we're talking about psychological therapies. And as you know by now, I am a psychotherapist who uses a lot of psychological therapies. This chapter is my jam. I love it. I think the information is great. Obviously, in this video, I will cover kind of what I consider to be the highlights of the chapter. But there is certainly a lot of information here. So I hope that you will spend the time to read and really, take this in. I think this is really interesting information. So your textbook starts by kind of talking about two main approaches to therapy. The psychological theory and techniques approach, and then the medical intervention approach. And so the psychological theory and technique approach, as it sounds, is really based in a therapeutic approach, which is about listening to clients' problems, helping bring clarity to those problems, helping assist clients in changing unhelpful thoughts, behaviors that might be related to the problem. And then the medical intervention approach is about psychotropic medication. It's about using medical knowledge and tools in an attempt to treat psychological distress. A lot of times we find in the field, this probably will not be an aha moment for you, but a lot of times in the field we find that some combination of both can be really helpful for clients, especially those who have acute persistent symptoms. So, the book will sometimes talk about things and it will seem like it's an either or, but a lot of times it's an and both. At least in my experience working in the field for the last 17 years. And kind of in that same vein, the book talks about being an eclectic therapist. I definitely consider myself an eclectic therapist. I think I've mentioned that a number of times throughout the semester. I think there's a lot of benefits to being an eclectic therapist. I would say the majority of professionals are eclectic in their approach, at least to some degree. And basically what that means is that we draw from a variety of different treatment philosophies and approaches, understanding that, we're going to have a variety of different clients who come into our therapy spaces. They will have come from different faith backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so being able to be open and kind of embrace an eclectic approach means that I have the best chance of providing each individual client with the best treatment options for them and their specific situation. The book transitions then to talking about some different kinds of therapy groupings. And so we're talking about individual therapy, couples therapy, family therapy, and group therapy. Probably you can discern from the names what these entail, but just to be a little bit more specific, individual therapy is where a therapist is sitting with a client one-on-one, and they are working through issues together, just the two of them in the room. In couples therapy, that usually involves two partners, and both partners are working with a therapist to work on usually their interpersonal relationship struggles. And then family therapy is also as it sounds. This is a therapist in a space with numerous members of a family, working a lot on overcoming dysfunctional family systems, unhelpful patterns that have been created over time. And then group therapy is usually a group of people that are not necessarily related, though they do usually share some kind of specific treatment focus. And so some of you have probably heard about grief groups. So someone loses a partner or a parent, and they go to group therapy in an effort to connect with other people who are going through grief. And there's lots of different groups. Again, most of them have some kind of shared therapy focus. Most of the people in the group have some kind of shared experience, which usually lends to some kind of shared language. And there's a lot of normalizing that happens in groups, making people feel less alone, maybe making people feel like there are other people who understand what they're going through, and that kind of helps people to open up about what they're really feeling. And if they're not sure what they're really feeling, sometimes it helps give voice to what they're feeling but couldn't quite identify on their own. And so groups can be really powerful in that way. And so in all of these different settings, you have a therapist who is working with either an individual, a couple, a family, or a group to kind of resolve whatever the presenting concerns are. The book goes on then to talk about insight and action therapy. And again, this talks about it as kind of an either or, and certainly there are therapists who prescribe to one or the other. I find in my practice that I really appreciate both. So insight therapy is therapy that's kind of aimed at helping clients have a better understanding of their issues, to have more awareness, to kind of dig in and dissect, in hopes that that increased awareness and understanding will lead to the ability to create some necessary change. Action therapy is more about providing clients with practical tools in the here and now for them to apply immediately and hopefully see changes in problematic behaviors. Again, as you can probably tell just by me kind of talking through those, a combination of both would be great. If you could have some insight and some tools, that might produce the best outcomes. There really are no rules necessarily. These do not have to be exclusive. We're not kind of told in the field you have to be an insight-oriented therapist or you have to be an action therapist. So yeah, there's flexibility there, and I feel like the therapists who I know who have the most success with their clients are those who can be flexible and really kind of meet each client where they're at and provide what their clients need. The book then transitions to talking about kind of the more specific treatment approaches that are available in the field. These are certainly not all of them. Like I think I've mentioned in a previous video, I am getting dozens of flyers for different conferences and trainings every week. And there's always something new to learn. And I love that. I love that the field is learning and growing and evolving over time. So as we go through these different therapeutic approaches, please just keep in mind that this is a short list. So the book talks about the biomedical approach to therapy. And the biomedical approach to therapy, as kind of alluded to previously in the medical model, is about finding the right psychotropic medications for clients. Sometimes this can involve surgery. In some really severe cases, we still use shock treatment. And there is more and more research coming out about non-invasive stimulation techniques. So there are a number of biomedical approaches to therapy. Next, the book talks about psychoanalysis. By now, this will sound very familiar, and as you know, this is our boy Freud making yet another appearance. And as you might guess, based on what you already know of psychoanalysis, psychoanalytic treatment is about bringing unconscious conflicts to the conscious so that we can better understand and address them. Obviously, Freud put a lot of stock in dream interpretation. This chapter in particular also introduces us to something called free association. And this is the idea that if you just allow people to come in and just talk, to just say whatever's on their mind, just allow them to get things out, that eventually, if they are in a non-judgmental space, their unconscious thoughts will start to kind of break free. So the idea is that they have all of this information, but it has gotten stuck. And so through this process of free association, as they just talk and process and talk, these things make their way to the consciousness and they can break free. The book talks about humanistic therapy. This too will, I'm sure, sound familiar to you because, as you know, this is Carl Rogers. This is his therapeutic approach. The book also talks about Fritz Perls as well, both of them being humanistic therapists. And humanistic therapy is about the conscious. It focuses a lot on our conscious choices, our subjective experiences, our sense of self. As you know, humanistic therapy emphasizes personal choices and the potential that we all have to affect the outcome of our own lives. So within humanistic therapy, we have something called person-centered therapy. And this is Carl Rogers. And this therapy approach is basically about offering clients unconditional positive regard as they process through the discrepancies between their real selves and their ideal selves. Again, this is a bit of review. These are things we've been introduced to in previous chapters, just making their way into this chapter as well. So, right, at the core of person-centered therapy then is this idea that we want people to be able to figure out who they are. We want them to be able to be authentic and to live congruent with who they are. Versus continuing to play out this ideal self, which is what they wish they were, maybe what they think that other people expect them to be. And so Rogers is just kind of trying to help people kind of put the ideal self aside and to really allow the real self to come to the forefront. Gestalt therapy is another humanistic therapeutic approach, and this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is Fritz Perls, and he did a lot of work within this humanistic camp, and his approach is very similar to Rogers' approach. They use a little bit different terminology, but it's very similar. His approach was about helping clients embrace their true selves, and resolve and do away with masks. He did a lot of work with masks, this idea that we kind of wear, this face, this persona of who we think we should be. Maybe that's who we think we should be because our parents said so, because society says so. So he did a lot of work about helping clients remove these masks so that we could live authentically. He believed that masks were about trying to hide part of ourselves that maybe we thought wouldn't be accepted by other people. And he really felt like in order for us to live our best life, we needed to remove masks and live congruent with our true selves. The book then transitions to talking about behavior therapy. Again, this is something that's been covered quite a few times throughout the semester. Early on, we talked about Watson and about Pavlov's dogs. But behavior therapy, kind of at its core is about helping clients learn new techniques for changing problem behaviors. And so this is a very direct approach. It includes things like systematic desensitization, aversion therapy, exposure therapy. It includes a lot of modeling for clients. It includes token economies, which we spent quite a bit of time talking about. And so all of these therapeutic approaches are about changing behaviors in the here and now in the most direct and efficient way possible. And so next, the book would transition to talking about cognitive therapy. Again, this is a review, but cognitive therapy at its core is about helping clients change their maladaptive, distorted thinking. It's about helping clients test illogical thoughts. And so with cognitive therapy, it is about bringing awareness to the thoughts which are keeping clients stuck. And a lot of times it is about replacing them with more healthy, logical thinking. And so I'm sure you can understand how that would be incredibly invaluable to someone who was stuck with some distortions in their thinking process. Next, we have CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. This is probably one of the most popular approaches to therapy. While I am an eclectic therapist, I would say if I had to identify a specific therapeutic approach, CBT is by far the closest to what I provide to my clients, a hybrid of cognitive and behavioral therapy. The book states the goal as, relieving client distress, helping clients to develop strategies for coping with future distress, and helping clients transition thinking patterns from negative to positive while providing empowerment for them to do so. And so this can be really helpful because it borrows heavily from behavior therapy, which is about providing practical tools, and cognitive therapy, which is about really understanding and addressing what is happening for us cognitively in order for us to know which tools would be most effective. So these two, when used in combination, can be really, really helpful for helping clients overcome issues. And so I mentioned that I am a CBT therapist, and so in preparation for this video, I thought I would share with you on my website, I have a little blurb about, kind of my approach to therapy, and I thought I would read it to you because I think if you compare it to CBT therapy, you will see a lot of parallels. So I basically say I believe in a client-centered approach to counseling, where the therapist and client work together as partners to address client issues. To that end, I give clients access to my eclectic bag of tools throughout their process, most grounded in cognitive behavioral theory. My main goal in any clinical relationship is to help my clients cope with current distress, identify faulty thinking and unhealthy patterns of behavior, learn and assimilate new coping skills, and ultimately achieve desired change. So you can probably hear a little bit of humanistic theory in there as well, but at its core, a lot of what I do is grounded in cognitive behavioral therapy. I do want to take a moment here to talk about the importance of client fit. And what that means is the most important indicator of success in a therapy process seems to be a healthy relationship between therapist and client. A therapeutic alliance seems to be core to progress. A therapeutic alliance is formed when there is safety, warmth, empathy, mutual respect. These things seem to be the most essential things, and they seem to supersede any of the different therapeutic approaches. So there have been, lots of research studies done to identify, okay, which therapy approach is the most effective approach. And what we're finding time and again is that it's not as much about the approach as it is about this therapeutic alliance. And so I think it's important to note that not all therapists or therapeutic approaches work for all clients. And so, we have to be pretty careful in the field to recognize when we're not a good fit for a client and to make sure that we refer clients to someone who might be a better fit if that alliance just isn't coming together. Because here's the thing, when therapy is working the way that it should, the client and therapist should both be invested in the process. And when that happens, there's a lot of meaningful work that occurs in a therapy process, meaningful insight, which almost always translates to desired change, which occurs throughout the process. And honestly, as a therapist, that's why I do what I do. To have that therapeutic alliance, to see clients growing in awareness, to see them creating meaningful change in their lives, to see them being successful. I mean, there's nothing better than that. The only thing that I can identify that's even close is this gig as a professor. Like I said at the beginning of this video, watching you all have these moments of awareness, watching you assimilate new tools and maybe challenge some of your old ways of thinking, and knowing that you get to take all of this with you. You're such a smart, capable group of students, and having these extra tools, it just makes me really excited about what that means for you, both in your personal relationships, but also in your professional relationships. So this is our last chapter video. And I wanted to end on an encouraging note. I love being a therapist. I loved being your professor. It's such a rewarding thing that I get to do, both of these roles. In addition to writing and putting my first book out into the world, it's just such a sweet season of life. And so thank you for being a part of it. It's been delightful to get to know you all through your posts and through your emails, through your comments, through your projects and assignments. I just really feel like there's so much potential in this group. I hope that you all will keep in contact and let me know how you're doing, give me updates. Our time together has been really special. And I am hopeful that you also feel like you've learned some valuable information throughout this course, and that you will take it with you as you transition to whatever's next for you. Again, you are a smart, compassionate, authentic, strong, motivated, amazing group of humans, and I'm so honored that I got to do this part of your journey with you. So, good luck to you in the coming weeks. We have a final exam coming, a final project as well. I am going to continue to remind you that that final exam, it will require that you know your stuff. So if you need to go back and reread through your notes, or if you've missed some chapters and you need to spend some time reading, you've got a few weeks to do that. You will have a study guide, but I will, spoiler alert, the study guide is a lot about reviewing your notes and your quizzes and your exams and your videos. A lot of questions will be pulled directly from these things. So if you've reviewed them, you should be prepared. So please prepare well. As always, I really want you to do well, but there's only so much I can do, and then the rest is up to you. So good luck, and I'm cheerleading for you. I'm believing with you, and yeah, take care, and thanks again so much. Bye-bye.